This video is kindly sponsored by Project Red. Check the link in the description to find out more. This video is made possible by 3D Musketeers, offering full-service product development, prototyping, and production, helping you make awesome from art to part. Links in the description.
Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Meet a Maker. Today I am very excited because we are meeting Nicholas Seward, who makes amazing motion systems for 3D printers that I have fallen in love with as of yesterday. So yesterday fell in love with them, today we're meeting him. Hello Nicholas, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. I did a little bit of an intro, but how would you introduce yourself? What do you like to make? Tell us a bit about yourself.
So the way you know me is through my YouTube channel and 3D printers that I make and just crazy ideas. But most of my life is teaching high school students. Mm-hmm. I teach at a residential high school in a small state in the United States. It's a bunch of smart kids from across the state that all come and live on campus. I teach computer science. So my background is I have an undergrad in mechanical engineering, which explains some of the stuff, but then I have a master's in computer science.
Right. Yeah. Well, that explains the rest of the stuff then. That is awesome. And so it's high school. That's pretty cool. And having them come and live at the school.
It is really high school by name, but I would put it at higher than college level. Because you have such a concentration of talent. When you go to college, you have all the kids, but these are just the really exceptional kids.
Yeah, because I remember seeing in some of your videos you mentioned that this is a project that a student is working on, and I'm like, my God, I can't even begin to understand how that works. And these are kids that are high school aged, which is wild.
Yeah, I mean they are still just kids. Sometimes kids are like, you're just trying to get us to do your dirty work, and it's more work it's more work to have them do it, because there's a lot of teaching to get them up on all the little aspects of it, because I already know all those things. I can just do them and I can just get right to doing the project. So sometimes I have to get the right project where I'm willing to step back and let them do it. And not just rush in there and do it all.
Yeah. I have never taught children, but I've worked in adult learning for a long time, just sort of more on the corporate side of things. And yeah, it definitely takes a lot longer to teach someone how to do something than it would be to do it yourself. So that whole argument of, making the kids do your dirty work, that's not what's happening, I'm sure.
And I don't know if I'm a teacher by personality or anything. I think I'm getting there. My personality is morphing, but I think it helps that I'm teaching exceptional kids that want to learn. There's definitely a special place for those teachers that can just motivate people to want to know the knowledge. But I don't have to do that. The kids know why the knowledge is important, and we can start from there, which is great.
That is really, because there's always that skill will thing when you're teaching. They need the skill and the will to learn it, but if they already have the will, the skill is kind of easier to impart generally. Though when you're talking about building your motion systems, pretty wild. Like, maybe we could just talk about a couple of them. I might even try and show some on the screen, because
sure. So the first one you would want to start with would be Simpson. And there's actually a whole class of robots that I put in that category. I can get you some links, but it's the one that everybody's going to recognize if they follow 3D printing a little bit is Gus Simpson. And it has 3 arms and spidered together.
Yeah, it looks like an insect is building your part. It's the wildest thing. In a really cool way.
since you're speaking of insects, I literally designed the thing and published it, and it was like the next week, it was very soon. Science, some magazine published a really detailed article about a plant hopper, and they actually took really close-up images of their legs, and the way they can jump really high and they can coordinate their leg motions is they actually have gears between their front and back legs. And so they actually, it's an animal with actual gears between 2 legs to make sure they rotate the same.
What?
And I mean, nature and my printer, I don't know, it's kind of a weird coincidence.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I feel like for a long time we've said that wheels don't exist in nature, and then I think that was disproven quite a few years ago. But it's interesting finding a cog in nature too. Like,
Yeah,
that's really cool.
I don't think it's the only one, but yeah, it's one of, like, you look at it and like
Yeah.
it's definitely a cog.
Oh, isn't the wonders of evolution amazing? How it just comes up with these neat solutions that,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just so cool. Oh, I love it. So yes, Simpsons. A few people might have seen that in the world of
Yeah,
3D
and
printers. They like the weird ones.
yeah.
I hope you don't mind him calling them the weird ones. I mean
Oh
that
yeah,
in
yeah,
a
yeah.
loving way.
In fact,
Yeah. Okay. Good.
in fact, I was looking at my YouTube analytics. I was like obsessing over it, and I got down to where my traffic was coming from, and I, I I was looking at where my traffic from my playlist come from, and there was one playlist that was called Funky Printers, and I happened to think that was like my whole channel. That's where all the traffic was coming from, and so I was like, 10% of my traffic is coming from some playlist that some guy put together called Funky Printers.
Funky. I love it. Funky is the right word. Yeah, it's got the like cool connotation because they
Right.
are incredibly cool. Yeah, funky. We'll call them funky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're I would like to say impractical, but I think they have potential to be practical.
Mm.
They what makes them impractical right now is time and motivation to like put all the pieces to auto calibrate them and like get them in a package that could be adoptable by the masses. But
Yeah, and like some of your designs seem incredibly efficient, like particularly that latest one, which the name eludes me, but on the one single rail and the
yeah,
three.
the monorail, and it's
The
still a work
monorail,
in
of course,
progress.
yes. Yeah, like that has the potential to be such an efficient design in terms of extra parts that you would need to build it, and like, yeah, just awesome and collapsible. I love how you talk about collapsing it into a tube so you could take it places, and I just love that idea so much. Taking a
I'm
tube and then like,
I'm
bam, there's my
continually
3D printer.
obsessed with as soon as I get a printer that I can put in my backpack and can print big enough for what I want, so I can just go somewhere, maybe some batteries, just slap it down on a table, hit print. It can like see where the table is. It can print right on it. I'm
Yes.
I'm I'm ready for that, and I think I'm getting close. I have a few prospects, but
Yeah, the
in
little rolling robot style one, that was
yeah,
awesome too. That's along those. Oh, you have it. Yes, we can see it.
I mean,
Yes,
maybe I
beautiful.
can't show it too well on here, but it's broken. But
Oh, yes, so cool. And that rolls along and prints not at a
right.
45-degree angle. It's like
Yeah, it's at a
20
little
or
angle,
something,
so it's
isn't
like
it?
that printer in your background,
Yeah.
except instead of a conveyor belt, it just rolls, and
Mm.
it does the same thing. You'd use the same slicer and everything.
Oh, okay. So like Cura Black Belt or something along those
Right.
lines.
Although the angle's probably a little wonky compared to what it has, but
Yeah, this is 45, and I think yours is shallower. I
yeah,
think, from
I
memory.
it was a trick. Yeah, since I have a day job, I have there's a syndrome where you can't complete projects. So I like getting, I like solving the problem, getting it to a point where like, hey, everybody, this is definitely a possible solution. And then I just
Go forth, everyone
I
else.
can't take that next step. I can't finish the design. I can't document it. I can't do all the things that I need to do. And I'm really disappointed in myself. But
Aw.
I do have some plans for the, like, maybe even hiring some of that done, or somebody in the community to like step up and take some of that responsibility.
That's a great idea. Yeah, leverage other people. Why not? I think
Right.
that's not done enough, especially in the like so many people find that as a hurdle, documenting the last few bits and getting all the I's dotted and T's crossed and all that to get it out to people. I think that's a great idea. Yeah, any way to overcome it.
Yeah, I definitely like doing some of the hard parts, but yeah, once
Solved.
I've proven that it's a possible, then I start losing interest.
That's totally understandable. I think many people, I know I feel the same. I do find it hard to tidy off projects. I have too many. that are very nearly done. But but anyway, I was wondering, what got you into making, like, have you always made things even before 3D printing came along, or is it your first kind of
I've never
making?
No. I mean, if I go back to like when I was a kid in high school, I wasn't a kid that always would take things apart or anything like that. I think I always analyzed and looked at things and was trying to figure out how they worked. I definitely had a little bit of that. And then whenever I went to college, I wanted to get in and like use the mechanical engineering. I wanted to get in and use the machine shop and stuff like this, but it wasn't set up for a normal student could use that stuff. They didn't even have a class or anything to like help you do that. And so if you had a project, sometimes you could draw something up and give it to the department machinist and they could make a thing for you. But
that seems so, wow. Yeah, like to not know the full process and to be designing something to be made. That's a really interesting workflow to be teaching.
Yeah, probably like one of the earliest things that really hooked me though was my first semester. There was this class that was worth, I think it was 2 hours, but I spent the majority of that semester on that class, like more than all my other classes combined. It was a drafting class, and I had the hardest teacher, and it was pencil and paper still with a computer component, but the main emphasis was like actually drafting on pencil and paper. And like if you had 2 lines meet and like they were like a little thick where they over, anyways, like all sorts of ridiculous.
I remember
this. It sounds like you know some of this.
Yeah, I did graphics in high school, not at a university level, but the same thing, everything drawn by hand, and yeah, 2 mil off. It's like, no, fail.
It wasn't like erase this and fix it. It was like throw it away and get a new one kind of thing.
Yeah. Yes, I remember those days well.
But I really got into the CAD and I loved it. And I did one of those old, those crank drills. You have one handle and
I had one of those. Yep.
Anyways, it was like way beyond the scope of like what they wanted for a final project. But and we were using AutoCAD, not Inventor or anything like that. And I learned how to 3D model all of that and make the diagrams and the documentation. I was just in love with all that. And then I just as on a whim, I went to a temp agency for the summer and like checked all the boxes for what I could do. And one of the things I checked was CAD. And it was like a day later, they're like, well, the temp people were like, I don't know what we're gonna do with you. It's like,
what's CAD?
Like maybe we can, I mean, you have a lot of skills, but we never have anybody that wants CAD. And then the next day they called me and like, hey, we got a job for you. And I went and worked for this company that my dad actually had worked for whenever he was early in his engineering career. And they made wrenches, Craftsman and like Matco and Allen wrenches. And they have these presses that are amazing. They're called cold form presses. And they, you can put the metal in there and you can compress it with crazy amounts of force and just make the metal flow when it's cold. I mean, it's not cold when it comes out, but you don't heat it up beforehand.
Wow.
And then there's all these stations. It's really cool. You press it and it's all this metal squishes out the side, and then you take it to the next station, and then you cut off the flashing, and then you move it to the next thing, and you have broaches that come down. And it's just this intricate, like, kaboom, and then like all these fingers come in and move things over one, and then kaboom, and it's just beautiful. And now at the end, you have almost a finished wrench. So you can put in the vibrator and the plater, and you're pretty much good to go.
That's amazing.
And anyways, I got that job, and so they let me play with all of this stuff. And by the end of the summer, I was doing projects, and I was spending $500,000 on things for it. And I was writing the recs and going down to the machine shop with the drawings. And I had the machinist telling me like, hey, that's dumb the way you designed that. Here, let me sit you down and tell you how to do this. And I learned so much. And then whenever I got the parts all, like, they always wanted it now. So I would actually order from everybody in town, that like in-house machinists and all the machinists in the whole town. And they would all send me parts so we could get them all done at the same time. And then I got to go put it on the machine and bolt it on. So one thing we did was an air detection system. So we had to put an encoder on the press, and so we could see where the arms were and we could see where the press was, and we needed to have an abort if the fingers were in the way whenever the press was coming down, and so it could, and then we could halt safely and then figure out what went wrong. So I had to machine all the parts and get them installed and test it out and work with the programmers. And anyways, such a fascinating experience, actually getting to turn turn wrenches and design it and do the whole thing. It was awesome.
Yeah, and like as an internship, that's incredible.
I'm like between a freshman and a sophomore in college, and I'm doing all this stuff. And
what an opportunity, my God.
Yeah. I don't know how you get something like this. It wasn't even an intern. I was just they hired me as, this is going to sound braggy, but this is true.
You can brag. That's what this is for. It's all for bragging.
So they hire me to do CAD work. And so my boss gives me like a stack. I don't know. It wasn't too thick, but it was thick enough of like hand-drawn things with annotations, and there's like digital files you could go and like you needed to pull those up and do the modification and then store it back into the virtual server and and so anyways, I got there day one, spent a couple hours getting my computer set up and the toolbars all in the right spots and stuff like this. And since I had spent like half of that semester like becoming an expert on AutoCAD, like I didn't need toolbars. I had all the left-hand keyboard things where I could just hit buttons, and then I could use my right hand on my mouse and the right click is enter. And anyways, I could just like sit there in that position and just
these ones. Yeah.
And it was like I was about, before the end of the day, like an hour and a half before the end, I go to him with the stack and it's all done. And I was like, okay, now what? And he was like, what?
That was meant to last you this whole time.
he was expecting weeks, maybe the summer. I don't know what he was expecting, but it was done. And now he had this talented person. Like, what do I do with him?
Yeah.
And so he just went to town and like letting me do anything, like things that he hadn't got around to. And so like he just increased his own productivity. And I remember like I also got a boss between him and me halfway through the summer, and he had graduated like 5 years ago. And I remember spending most of the summer teaching him how to do his job because I already had some exposure. And I was just like, that kind of disillusioned me with education. I was like, I can do this stuff. They could hire me now and I could be very productive for this company for the rest of my life and it would be fine. But they won't do that because I don't have that piece of paper.
Yeah. I feel that. I started 2 uni degrees relatively recently in the last 5 years or so. And just being taught by tutors who had only ever gone through the degree and never actually worked in the real world, and then hearing them say, this is how you do it in the real world. And one of them was something that I'd kind of already done in the real world a bit. And I'm like, if I did this in the real world, I would be fired. Like, this is not how it is done. I don't care what your professor who did this 15 years ago says. Like, it's not. And then you have to get this piece of paper that is basically meaningless, and you could just be already doing the job. And I get you. It's frustrating. There's something so rich about learning on the job though. Like when I first left school, I did an apprenticeship, and that ability to like have real world problems that you're really tackling and people who've really lived it and all that sort of stuff like is just stellar. I would recommend that to anyone.
And even like I might be able to use some of this experience if I went to another job, but almost every job it's complete new stuff, which is fascinating. I love that stuff for keeping your brain young, but
I'm a firm believer every job teaches itself. Like even if you do all that stuff in uni, you get a vague idea of the things that are out there, but then when you go to the actual job, it's like, oh, we don't actually use that software, we use this, and this is our workflow, and it's totally different to what you've learned. And it's just different anyway. So I don't know.
On the flip
the physics stays the same, probably. The calculus stays the same.
Right.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, like just the things I've been forced to learn, set in classes, and I don't know, like I find at the weirdest moments something's coming up, and like, oh yeah, like I don't remember it fully, but I can kind of go look it up, and
it's great for that.
Yeah, I don't
And
know.
also,
Like, some of the projects like some of these crazy unique printers, like the pieces have all come from like these really weird different places, not all school, and then they just like every once in a while they all click and it all makes sense.
yeah, and I do find I like the environment of being in some sort of learning program because you get a constant influx of new information, and those sparky moments happen more often when you're in that environment. I feel like you get lots of inspiration when you're going through the process of learning, right. I think.
Yeah, those what do you call those environments that are just like ripe with discovery. Those are so rare, and like, yeah, like being surrounded by other kids that are all going through the same thing, thinking about these things for the first time, coming up with crazy ideas. I've been wasting a lot of time on the Discord server we're both on, and the
3D printing one.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's sucking my time in, but the ideas and the like, I wouldn't have come up with the Monorail unless I had a lot of conversations with people on the Discord, and just the rapid, like I'll throw a crazy idea out and they're like, well, what if, and then maybe that's a dumb what if. But there's always value in that. Like I don't know. I guess going back to my early days in the 3D printing community, I was really active on the RepRap forum. I worked very hard to like manicure. I don't know, that's not the right word, but like build the community around the projects I was working on. And you know, I wanted to make sure everybody felt included, and I wanted input from other people. I didn't want to just be like, this is what I'm doing, because that's not beneficial.
Yeah.
And there were so many ideas that are like, that's dumb. And that's what I said in my head. And then I would think about it for a second, and like, what is the valuable piece of this? Or is there anything, could I explain why it's not a good idea? Or do I have some built-in assumptions that I should check again? I don't know. There's so many times whenever a post led me down a path that where the actual idea posted, I could have been dismissed, but it led to something amazing. One of the, I should have brought a prop, but one of the biggest ones was the gear arms for Gus Simpson. There was a post where I could actually go pull it up, because this is so classic. It's a guy posted essentially a drawing of two plastic knives kind of stuck together, like just like these. It looked like two plastic knives stuck together, and the idea was they could rotate on each other on that curved surface.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yes. Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. I can see how that ties in. Yeah.
And it was, and it led to this, and it led to that, and it was just like everything kind of caught on fire, and it turned into actual gear arms. And there's some really cool geometry if you go back and like with the way that the arm's driven, like you actually turn the motor once, and the ends of the arm separate by a certain amount, and you turn it again, it separates by the same amount. So it's completely linear. It's a
wow.
The whole arm is a linear actuator with linear response, which is very, very weird and unusual.
That is really, really weird from a pivoted. Wow. Yeah.
And so if you actually look at the Simpson, it's essentially a tripod bot. If you get rid of the arms and just think of a virtual line between the effector and all the sides, you're just driving that length, and you drive it directly from the motor.
Right. Okay. Yes. This is actually clicking. I didn't ever understand how it was working before, and it's just clicking into place. So yes, thank you. Oh wow. Okay, I didn't realize.
That's and then the post, like how to get the constant belt lengths and all. I mean, like it's insanely detailed in the way that it all has to come together. And it would have only happened if some guy posted like, what about this? It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
it was like a paint diagram with like a line on it. And
Yeah. I love that though. Like, I love watching the propagation of ideas throughout, particularly this community. It just seems like it happens so well in 3D printing, where some little piece over here will happen and it will just like trickle through different minds and get all this other interesting stuff gets brought into it, and it comes out into an awesome thing at the end of it. It's just so fascinating to watch, and it's probably one of my favorite things, and probably one of the things that's kept me coming back to this community, because it's just a beautiful thing to behold. It's like creativity happening on a network scale, you know, like not just within one person, but within many people, which is just the coolest thing. It's beautiful.
I couldn't agree more. I'm really, you know, just how coming up with ideas and like protecting them with patents.
Yes.
I understand that. I understand why we need it, but it hurts my soul.
Yes, yeah. It's like, it could be amazing. Yeah.
Like, just think of all these, like I know these people like are working for these companies and they just like sharing ideas and geeking out about this. Not all of them, but some of them. And they're having to stay at their company and protect their IP, and I have to be over here protecting my IP, and I don't like
we all have to be at war with each other slightly, you know, like competing. And yeah. I remember just the other day I saw this awesome printer, and it worked sort of like an MSLA resin machine, except that it was printing metal using electroplating, and I was like, wow, that is the coolest thing. But of course, patent protected. They started the project 5 years ago, haven't heard anything for 3 years. It doesn't exist now. And I'm like, man, that would be, you know, that's so close to being accessible metal printing for use at home. And it's dead because someone wanted to patent it and make money from it. And so it doesn't live. And it's so sad, because how cool would that, very, very slow, but very, very cool, would that be? And so it's...
And maybe it's a dumb idea, but maybe it's a dumb idea that could lead somebody else to build something that would be patent infringing to make the better next thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, well, we're just agreeing with each other here.
Yeah. Patents are dumb.
Patents are dumb. Do you find that
people keep on asking me to patent my stuff, or like, I feel like that would paint a target on my back.
It probably would. Yeah, definitely. But like you said, it's so
sorry to interrupt you again, but like since I just came out with the Monorail, that patent is actually about set to expire, because like nobody came up with the Monorail idea, but the idea of having these planes intersect from these arms, that's in the Tripteron patent. So even though I have a novel way of putting it together, and I'm sure nobody's done this before, like I still couldn't make money off of it, at least for a couple months. So.
A couple months. Well, let's keep that on the DL and hope no one notices and renews that patent, because that Monorail looks amazing. And I'm like, man, if there's any way, like, I am not the most technical. I came from a different background. So I'm not like, I could build my own 3D printer. But if there was ever some really good instructions, then I would be so keen to do that, because it is so cool. And you could, like, I don't know, stick it to the side of like a shelf or on your bench top or something. It just clip on the side of your desk and be building things. Like, that's so cool.
So it's still evolving to, like, I think things change very fast, but the one that I'm thinking about building is actually going to have a rail that's floating in space with like two legs. Yes. And then it'll print underneath it, so it'll look more like a like one of those Delta printers with anyways, but it'll be able to slide around. I got a
Delta over my shoulder, I think.
But they have some different Deltas that have instead of having the linear rails, they have like arm actuators.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool. Okay, yeah, that'd be cool. Oh,
anyways, I'll have to post it. Anyways, but
yeah.
But the one I posted on YouTube actually has kind of a weird work envelope. So right next to the rail, it has 0 Z height, and as you go farther from the rail, the Z height gets bigger and bigger. So it has this weird triangular.
Oh, I get it. Yep.
It's very
That makes sense though. Yeah, it's almost like, yeah, no, it
but
does
if I
make sense.
pick up the rail and put it in space, the build area
Yeah,
is
it's
going to
like,
be like a tent.
yes, yeah.
So I'll have
It's almost
plenty
like
down low. Yeah.
camera aperture almost. Like I'm just like, this is the place you can build. Yeah. And would it be more detailed in the peak of the tent? Would the movements be more precise in that area than they would be? No.
I've
Okay.
gotten a lot of these questions, but
Sorry. I don't know enough to
no, well, it's very counterintuitive, but everywhere in the space that you can reach has exactly the same resolution.
Ah.
It's like completely uniform printing everywhere. Because every time you move one of the carriage, you move a plane a certain amount, and so
Yes, that I'm just linking back to where you moved each plane individually, and now it makes sense. Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm gonna have to check a link in the description, because none of this is gonna make sense to anyone until they've seen it. But it's a great video, and you do a really good job of explaining how it works in that video. I think, like the separate little animations for each axis and stuff. I'm like, yeah, you really great. I mean, you would be. You teach, so but it's really well done.
I haven't reached the levels of the professional YouTuber, but I'm keeping it like I purposely make it not awesome. That's my brand.
I like it. Take the pressure off. Yeah, I was gonna ask kind of where you get your ideas from, but I suppose we've sort of touched on that a little bit. But are there any, like, when you're just like, I don't know, are there any gold mines of information or gold mines of cool ideas that you delve into on the regular?
Yeah, so I have a regular running a list of things that I want to accomplish. Like for 3D printing, I want a portable, cheap, like unusual, like just
funky.
Like I have these. Not all of them are compatible goals, but I have a list of goals that I'd like to achieve. And anytime I see a video where somebody mentions something, I'm always looking at the lens like, how does that relate to anything that I'm working on? Mm-hmm. Or is there some way that the idea I just saw could be used in a way that they weren't even thinking about it? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Or is there a way to fix what they're doing to make it better? All of these things. So I definitely benefit from cross-pollination. I definitely don't just sit around and come up with the ideas all on my own. And like I said, on the Discord server lately, I have a burst of productivity lately because I like kind of begrudgingly got onto the Discord server, but
sorry. It's very addicting.
Apsu, she was continually talking to me about triptyrons on Google Hangouts or something like that, and it was fascinating, and that was enough, and it used a lot of my time. But Google Hangouts wasn't the best platform for ongoing conversations, and so I kind of got drug over. And I've done the RepRap forum, and I've really enjoyed it, but I have to be a little bit guarded on my time. I have a lot going on school wise, and I'm working on remodeling a house.
Oh wow!
So, in theory, in the future, I'll have more free time, but.
Yeah, Discord's kind of good because you can just like sneak it in between things,
Right.
like just walking down the hallway, checking a message that sparks an idea, and you're thinking about that while you're doing the dishes or whatever. It's kind of good for just sneaking in there. But yeah, forums can take a little longer sometimes.
I'm gonna have to find a balance for sure, because I have I don't know, addictive personality in that regard, where it's hard to moderate the amount of time I spend, and I'm really susceptible to going too hard and then having burnout, as all my unfinished projects will testify to.
We are way too similar. Yeah. I've been in that Discord community because I help admin that one now, but I've been in there since they had like 200 members. And so we have 12,000 now, which is like huge. And yeah, I do find it a little overwhelming sometimes. A lot of the time, actually, you kind of find a channel that you really like and just stick to it, I think. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I might have to maybe within, but like I might have to carve out another little area if I'm a little too like the RepRap custom build one is,
Yep.
is awesome, but maybe will be too much.
We could do a Funky Printers channel. I could talk to the team about that. We kind of debated it already a little while ago, having a Funky Printers channel. So I could do that for you.
I know my role right now says unique printer, but if you could change that to funky printer, I would appreciate it.
I can definitely change that. I'm going to write a note. Funky printer. It's happening. Oh, so good. I was wondering, you talked a little bit about it, but it's a good one to explore. What challenges do you have when you, like, throughout your creative process? I keep calling it creative. Would you call it creative? I don't know. Throughout your workflow, maybe.
So my process is, so I usually do, I do a lot of sketching, but I carry a lot in my brain and just I'll piece things start sliding into place, and I'll have different things that don't quite work in my brain yet, and I'm like, well, how did that work?
Area. Yeah.
So I'm continuing to like trying to get all the pieces to fit, and then every once in a while, like usually through some kind of discussion, like, oh yeah, that's how I could do that, or and so everything will just come together, and I'll know how all the pieces need, like the general architecture of the printer needs to be, or robot or whatnot, and then it's just a matter of modeling it. And I can model in an evening and make a video and post it, and yeah.
I wish I could make a video in an evening. I'm jealous of that skill.
And then once it's modeled, it usually, like, once I order parts and they're all sitting there, it's like a week, and then it's a thing. Like once I don't know, I'm fascinated by having a digital thing, but if that digital thing has been well thought out, and you know it could exist in the real world, you've done all the tolerance checking, and you make sure you do all your due diligence, but you have this digital thing, it almost wants to become real. Like it almost have its own personality, and like desire to become, I don't know if I'm making any sense.
No, definitely. I feel that as well. And I think I'm similar in that I really like the design process and the working it all out stuff, so that when I go to print something, it's generally right the first time. It's rare that I'll print the same thing multiple times. Like, there's always something you can overlook or whatever, but in general terms, it comes out pretty close to the pardon?
I bet your scrap bin's pretty big. I bet you're lying.
Actually, I could show it.
Oh yeah,
because it's only that line under there, and that first box isn't scraps, that's parts, and then there's a couple of baskets behind, but that is all my scraps that I've ever had. Oh no, wait, there's one other bucket of some larger things, but it's about this big, but it's a thing I decided no longer to make. It was a RepRap. But yeah, and I've been printing for a few years. I do make smaller things, but I generally just like to make sure that the design's pretty well thought out before I hit print. I think I personally just find that really satisfying, the process there, and getting it all pretty hunky-dory. So yeah, then when you go to make the thing, it comes together pretty easily in the reel, generally. Not always. I do fail. I don't want to pretend I don't, but yeah.
I should mention, since you're talking about the actual digital side of it, I do a lot of work on the digital side. So we've one super notable example, but definitely not the only one, is in Cura. There's a infill pattern called cubic subdivision, which is the best one. You should always use it every time.
Oh, how come? Pray tell.
But so what it does, well, so as a student project, again, the phenomenal student, and so what you do is you take your part, and then you put a cube with pointy end up and pointy end down around the part, and then you subdivide it if that cube intersects the surface, and you recursively do that until you get smaller and smaller cubes, and eventually you'll get cubes that land squarely inside the part that don't need to be subdivided anymore. And then you 3D print on the surfaces between all the cubes, and that makes your infill pattern.
Yeah.
And what that gets you is, if you have big voids on the inside of your part, you'll have big cubes that don't have everything filled in. And so you get kind of a bone structure. You get really
Oh, got you. So it's more dense
on
towards
the
the
outside.
surfaces, the skin. Right. Okay.
And,
Gotcha.
we've done testing on structural rigidity and stuff like that. And I mean, we can't test for every single different case, but for the things we tested, there was no statistical difference in anything between the one that was um, full cubic and one that had the hollow spots on the inside.
Huh.
So it was almost like a free weight reduction.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. I am going to be using that. I was like a gyroid fan because like gyroid looks really cool.
Oh yeah,
But yeah.
here's what's cool, right? But if you want a strong light part, yeah, cubic
Yeah.
subdivision is the way to
Cubic
go.
subdivision. I'm gonna check that out. Thank you. Awesome.
I'll do a shout out for the kid, Martin Bowinkle. Somebody hire him if he hasn't already been hired.
What's he good at? Tell us some skills.
Computer science. Yeah, he'll do
Awesome.
anything you need. And on the job training, you'll be an expert in a week and run circles around you.
That's awesome. Okay, well there you go. You can hire a child.
Well, he's
Brilliant
not a
one.
child
Not a
anymore.
child anymore. Oh, was he an
Probably out of
ex-student? Okay.
college. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, hire adult legally. It's all hunky dory. Just a very brilliant human. Do it. That's awesome. That's very, very cool. Ah, cool. Okay. What was I gonna ask? Oh, I don't know. Have you got any projects that you reckon deserve a little more recognition than they got, or just that you thought were really cool and maybe the internet didn't take off the way you expected them to because you were like really excited about something and they were just like, oh yeah, whatever. Yeah, are there any projects like that you just want to give a second go to?
Actually, I feel like everything's gotten about the amount of attention that I
You
would
reckon?
think it deserves. That's kind of odd, I think, for most people to say, but I mean, honestly, a lot of my projects have gotten quite a bit of attention. And so, in fact, probably in some cases, probably more attention and than they deserve because I haven't got to that finish line and made the documentation, made it where easy for people to build. But people, there's such fascinating things to look at that you want to build that thing, and I didn't do that next step to make it easy for them. And
I feel that. I think as soon as I
but
found your
then
first video on the Monorail, I was like, I need it. I need it. Yeah.
I'm just beating myself up, but
Don't.
I'm gonna have to let myself off the hook so I can actually do cool things in the future.
Yes.
And I have to just figure out what it is that I need to be able to be happy and do this stuff. Anyways, it's a
You've
trick.
got to do it for you. Don't feel
Right.
pressure from us. Like, do
Yeah,
it for you.
it's hard. It's hard, but yeah.
I'm sorry.
But the
I
one
like your hiring someone idea. I think
Oh,
that's a
yeah.
really good idea. So if there's anyone in the audience, make yourself known. Yeah.
a project that I really am in love with. It's not necessarily a specific project, but the Sextupteron. It's a motion platform that does 6 degrees of freedom, and it's based off the Tripteron. It has 6 arms instead of 3 arms. It's just a beautiful thing to watch.
These ones. I was watching that video. That's so cool. I'm like, oh, you could like smooth outside surfaces and like,
Oh,
very
I
nice.
can't wait. It has to happen. And I've been working on a slicer. Not that it's going to be ready for anybody else to use, but I've been putting the pieces in place and trying to slowly build it and try to get kids to work on projects every once in a while within this slicer. So yeah, I mean, I can't. I'm not going to publish it on GitHub, so don't ask people. So, but I have a slicer that's like super basic and something that kids can hack on, and it's their language. They know it's like the stuff they learn in the school. It's approachable enough that I can like plug them in and have them do some experiments, and it's not constrained to being planes. And so you can take your 3D model and get intersections of arbitrary shapes. And the trick is gonna be how do you figure out how to decompose the part? And anyways, there's
That is
one
very exciting.
just I'm just gonna nerd out on this since you
Yeah, do it. So
there's 2 schools of thought, and I think they're both valid. But most people are saying that we're not going to be able to do 5-degree printing, so X, Y, and Z, and then tilt both ways. Like technically there's 6 degrees, but we don't really need to twist the nozzle. It won't get us anything. Anyways, 5D printing. Some people think that it could be all automated, and you could have pretty good results without having to put too much user input, like some of our slicers are now. Like we all know that slicers require a little bit of finesse to make sure they work, but for the most part, you can, if you design right, you can throw it into Cura, bam, you got something. And I think we can get an okay thing that way. And then there's other people that like, this is only going to work if you actually can build up your processes, like if you're doing 5-axis CNC milling. And so
it's 5-axis CNC milling, not dump it in a slicer and it'll work. It requires quite a bit of human.
Right.
Okay.
You have to click on this surface. I want to rough it out, and then click on this surface, use a ball mill, and I want you to contour it this way, back and forth with this step over. Anyways, it's very complicated, and there's no.
But CNC has more. They're different tools. Like the heads are all different for different tasks. It's more complicated than a nozzle of varying width. Like, yeah, interesting. Okay.
Anyways, I'm hoping, I'm praying that we can come up with some kind of approach that is pretty workable. There's been one recently, I guess I should shout out that somebody did a 4-axis one where they're printing cones on top of each other where they can get some overhangs. I think they modified a Prusa and made it work like that. Anyways, it's cool. Pretty sweet and a good approach to get started with this. But I want to go full 5-axis, just beautiful contours. I can't wait.
Yes, that'll be awesome. And like ironing, like you know how Cura has that ironing setting, and you just like smooth everything out to a beautiful gloss. Like, oh, that'd be so. That's
great. Another project that's not even on my top of my list, but to like print the whole thing and then come back with a heated ball or something and just go back and like.
Yes, that would be amazing. Oh.
Like the problem with 3D printing is it's not like you're squirting out of a fairly big nozzle. 0.4 millimeters is actually pretty big on the scales of like CNC mills and stuff. And then you have plastic just oozing out. Like you're not going to get a good surface.
And also like it's happening in layers, right? Like, so there's a grain line of strength, you know, like if you print a really tall part, it can snap really easily that direction. But if you had something that could move in any direction, then you could actually build that strength in on the layer sort of line, right? Am I right in thinking that? I don't know. This is presumptive.
In fact, you can do that now. Well, it's not built into slicers, but it should be. So you can get longer nozzles and you can just make your own printer go up and down a little bit.
Yes.
And you can do egg crate patterns to kind of interlock your layers a little bit. And we've done a little bit of testing on that, and it helps a little bit. It's not as much as you'd hope for, but egg crate
counts. Yeah.
You start printing flat, and then you slowly egg crate it up a little bit, and then you have some really weird top artifacts unless you want to go back to flat when you get to the top. It's weird.
Yeah, interesting. That'd be cool though. That'd be I just love all the weird things. Like ages ago, I started building a felt printer that would 3D print in felt, and I got a manual mock-up done, but I'm still working on the post-processing script because I just don't code. But I'm getting there in Python. I'm cobbling my way through, and I just need to work on it a bit more. I know it's all in pseudocode.
How do you print felt?
Well, there's this process that's used industrially to make felt. I'm sorry, this is meant to be about you. Is it?
No, I want to know. You have to talk about it.
Okay. So there's these needles that you get. So the way they make felt industrially is they like kind of layer down loose felt with like roving, they call it. It's like loose wool. It doesn't, or it could be acrylic or whatever, but fuzzy stuff. Layer it down all which way, and then they grab these needles that have little downward facing barbs on them, and they push it into the felt, and that process pulls the fibers into the ones underneath and kind of tangles them up inside a bit, and they just jab it with like thousands of needles, and it flattens it into a nice sheet. And you can do this by hand as well.
Is this like SLS fluff netting? Or?
A little bit, not quite. I changed it a little bit. So you can do it by hand as well, and you jab the needle in all which directions, and you can make a cute little animal or whatever. But what I have is it feeding yarn into the printer, and then the needle is going along and punching it like this, punching the yarn into the layers below and tangling that yarn up with the layers below. And then, you just build it up, tangling, and then you have a little printed part. And I made like a tool head and manually moved it around in the orientation of the printer and just jabbing manually with my hands. But like, in a way, I think a printer, it wouldn't be too radically hard for it to replicate. And it worked. And I was like, oh, yes, this is viable. So I just need to strap it to my Delta, because I'm just going to use the Delta to lift it up and down in the beginning. And eventually I'll get some sort of effector that can punch properly. I'm a total beginner in all things.
Well, we can, after, in the after show, I have some ideas on ways to make it work with our existing software.
Yes. Okay, cool. Because I was using Cura and then just gonna do a little post-processing script. Add a little.
I think you can do this with zero post-processing. I think you can put all firmware.
Oh, okay. Okay, let's talk more. I'm excited, because if I can get this going, that would be wonderful, because I've been talking about it for like literally years.
I have to see it. My daughter needs this.
Yeah, I want to just be able to, like, I just think it would be so cool, because so many of our printing materials are like hard and rigid, or if they're flexible, it's like rubbery flexible, and it's not something you want to like cuddle up with at the end of the night, or have as an insole for your shoe, or a pillow that's totally custom to your head, or whatever. Like print a hat.
I love this stuff. I never knew the world needed this, but the world needs
I feel it needs
a stuffed animal maker, right?
Totally. Print your own teddy bear, like, yes. Like, kids could draw something out in Tinkercad and then hold a little soft toy of it at the, like, I really want to make it happen. So yes, let's talk more in the after party. That would be amazing. Yeah. Sorry, that was such a tangent.
So Sextupteron needs more attention. So
yes.
no, five axis printing, I think, needs more attention.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be that.
The desire's there. I think whenever anyone talks about 5-axis printing, people get really excited. So I think there's definitely a desire.
The problem is you need the printer that's bulletproof, which I don't know the Sextupteron's going to be that, and then you need the software that's open source that will do the cool things. And if somebody can just spend the money and get those things, like spend the money, make the printer, and then the software's on the shelf and all the firmware and all that stuff figured out, then people will start doing it. Somebody will make a business, they'll start selling these things, but there's so much mental capital that has to be spent to get to that point.
I'm wondering, like, are there grants people could get to do that? Is that a thing in America where you apply to the government to get money to do a cool thing?
Yeah, but it's a hard thing to define, like how much it would take to get there. And then, like, if they're anything like me, as soon as I get once I have to do something, then that's hard.
Yeah, true. But you could hire someone and just guide them. I don't know. Yeah, but it would be really cool. Like, that's a holy grail, isn't it? One of the holy grails of 3D printing.
We'll get there. I mean, like, there's so much just, that, like, 10 years ago to now, like, it's almost unrecognizable in some very good ways. In other ways, we can just buy a $160 machine that is amazing, and it shouldn't cost that little, and I'm kind of afraid.
Yeah, I've only been printing for three or 4 years, and even in that time, the landscape has changed dramatically in so many ways. So yeah, I feel that. It's and a lot of the skills, like when you can just buy a Prusa, like all the people who were tinkerers and like making machines and stuff, they own a Prusa now because they can just hit the button and it prints. And now they're like, I don't want to mess with it. I know it works. So that like desire to keep fiddling isn't as common as it was, I think.
Is if you look at the community and who you're talking to, early on, like, it was a bunch of people that were like really interested in making. And then, people started getting printers, and there's this whole now community that doesn't know anything about making, but they know how to 3D print. Well, they're still makers, but they're not
different kinds.
They have no idea how to actually fix their 3D printer if it breaks.
Hello. No, I've learned, but I was definitely one of those people. I came in with like sewing as my background. So
there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's,
but it's different,
like,
right?
You can figure out what you want to do, but the beauty of now is, since you can get a printer for nothing, like I'm on the Discord on the RepRap little area, and all those people want to build weird, funky things again.
Yes.
Nobody needs a printer. They all have printers. They have very functional printers, and they're like working to make worse printers.
Interesting, innovative printers, funky
No,
printers.
No, it's not. I'm just joking. And just like, I mean, some of the
But
printers
yeah.
are going to be exceptional, and some of them are going to lead to other ideas, and hopefully businesses will take some of those ideas. But yeah, like the community has in some ways gotten smaller, but I think the quality has gone up.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I think, yeah, I don't know. I haven't been around all that long, really. So it's very interesting hearing how it was and how it is now and that evolution process. Oh,
I'm not super deep into it. I've been trying to balance.
you need to, for sure. It can totally take over your world. Yeah, it's actually been a blessing for me that I don't moderate the subreddit anymore, because that was a lot of my time and I got that back. So that's nice. Yeah, definitely. Oh, well, this is so cool and your stuff is so inspiring. And is there anything else you want to chat about while we're here? Any cool stuff you want to say, or I don't know.
This question was coming, but well, I have more things I can pull up on the camera.
Please. Yes. Do some little demos, please.
So this was the first Helios that I made. It's in shambles, as you can see. But if you haven't witnessed this machine, I think this is one printer that's going to take over the RepRap community if I ever get around to finishing it. Because look at how big this thing is.
That is incredible. You can fit that in a backpack.
Yeah, totally. And I can make it smaller. I've learned since then, and so yeah, this is the prototype, and we've made 2 versions since this, and so I still need to make another version, but yeah, it has all the motors just static right there in the back. It's like super compact, and then all the things are remote on this arm. Everything's like rock solid, and then the Z's at the end can go up and down.
Right. Oh, that is cool.
So yeah, you can just fold this up, and any guess on like how much this can print versus like a Prusa, like print volume?
Oh, I don't know. That arm looks like it could reach pretty far if it was extended.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is that? 30 centimeters?
Yeah.
No, because
bang on. You're bang on.
Go me. That's awesome. Wow, that is a really big build volume for such a compact machine. I haven't calculated
in a while, but I want to say 3 or 4 times the build volume.
Wow.
Of a Prusa. And this is the thing that can fit within the build volume of a Prusa.
Yeah. Oh, that is so cool. I love that, because printers are huge. Like that print mill is enormous, and like my Delta's relatively compact for what it can do, but I have a CR10S5 which has got a 500 by 500 build volume, and it's a bed slinger, so it's just massive. And it would be so nice to have them more compact, and you have them on a shelf and you take them out and put them on your desk, and they print you a thing and then they go back on the shelf. Yeah. That would be wonderful. Yeah.
I guess one of the problems with this is, you have to print right on a table, and like there's a bottom that's missing, but you can clamp it down to the edge and then have it reach out over the table. One thing that I'm working on,
I think that's cool.
Right now it can kind of reach behind itself, but it has this backbone. But I'm working on a version that can go all the way around and print the whole donut.
That's cool.
My working name for it is Homer.
I love it. That's wonderful. Yes, perfect.
And
that is so good, because you can sequentially print objects and then just like peel them off the bed, and it can just keep going as long as you're catching up with it every now and again to take them off. Yeah, that's awesome. It's like it having an infinite.
Yeah, it's not performant there's a lot of printers out there that are like super fast, and you can speedboat race with them and all that stuff. But if you want a CR10 level 3D printer, Helios will print just fine. So, and then
is that one that you have the files up for? Are any of the ones?
What's that?
Are any of them ones you have files like that people can make up?
I put the files for the prototype Helios up, but I put a big disclaimer on there, like build at your own risk. I'm not planning on supporting this. Yeah.
Fair.
And then I don't know if I said the name of this one, but this one's called Wheelios because it's a Helios with wheels, right?
Cute. I love it. Your naming convention makes me happy. That's lovely though. I've actually seen people thinking about robots similar to that for like building on Mars and stuff, you know, like they could go there and like build a structure before humans even arrive out of the basalt or whatever Mars or the moon or whatever is made out of. And yeah, like that makes a lot of sense for large scale things that can just happen relatively slowly.
Yeah, and I guess we could with the monorail we could put it on like lock the middle carriage and put it on wheels and have it just drive along.
I didn't even think about that. That's so cool. Yes. So cool. Sorry, this just makes me so excited. I'm sorry. I'm just geeking out. I should have done mechanical engineering, I think, because I just get so excited by all this stuff.
Yeah, I love the mechanics of it, but doing all the software and stuff is fun. Like one thing I have no idea, this completely open question, is how it's like Simpson or the monorail. There's like infinite possibilities. I can have different arm lengths, different arm angles. I've come up with an idea, but the idea is far from like it's not the only way you could make a monorail. I just made an example of it just to see how it would work. And so part of the work that's ahead of me is to make simulations and to see how I can optimize build volume and ensure resolution and accuracy and make sure that you don't have, it can support the weight that it needs to. Anyways,
I'm just imagining like gantry crane printers, like printing giant things in warehouses and stuff. Like, oh, so cool. When you're going through processes of like that idea iteration almost, when you talked about making simulations, would you build something that you can plug in the parameters and see the different outcomes, or would you be modeling them in some sort of CAD software and trying them out? How do you normally approach an idea like that?
Yeah, my main go-to would be something like Python. I would
only coding I know. Yeah, sorry.
So yeah, I would make a simple model of it that I could express with just math and Python, and then everything would be parameterized, whatever. So
yeah.
and then I would apply some fancy algorithm like a hill climbing algorithm or something to do some kind of optimization. There's a few out there that you can just plug in if you have the functions written the right way.
That's cool. So you'd let it sort of almost generatively come up with an idea. Yeah,
I'm in love with generative design, but within like Fusion and Inventor, like it's limited to optimizing the shape of parts, which doesn't really make sense for 3D printing. That's something that we need to work on. It's like you put a 3D print in here, like let's figure out how to get the right overhangs, all that stuff. Just do all the modifications and see if that's right.
Have you seen what Tenton are doing? They have like, it's sort of like an ultra plugin for Cura on steroids, and it's not geometry optimization, but it is settings optimization down to the point where they will make new shapes inside your existing shape and have infill here denser than infill there and all this other stuff going on, which
some things that I want to do, and maybe Cura is the place to put this, but let's say you want to print something and there's let's say you have like a countersink hole, and so you can't print it because then the filament would fall in because you can't bridge across the hole. But you could sequentially do circles that are smaller and smaller until you get to the actual size that you want. And so whenever you get to some unprintable region, you can just whittle away at it layer by layer until you can get to the real one. And if the slicer knew that and like automatically did that and just didn't like YOLO and print in space.
Cura has it's an experimental feature called
there's so much stuff I don't know
optimize. This is in normal, like standard Cura. It's like optimize geometry or something along those lines. It's in the experimental features in the advanced mode.
Nice.
And you can put an object in there and it will remove overhangs by changing the geometry a bit. Like, it doesn't actually change the file. Like, you can't get an STL out.
I'm so glad
But
I
it
know
will,
about this.
it
I'll
will
have to
do,
try this right away.
it'll pretty much do exactly what you're saying. Pardon, what were you saying?
Nice.
Sorry.
No, no, it's just that's awesome. There's so
Yeah.
much to know. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, I love Cura for all its weird little things, but that's definitely in there because even it was like maybe 2 years ago now, I printed a rose shape that had a lot of overhangs, and it worked that out and no overhangs, and it was great. And you can even set the limit, so you could have like 60 degrees if your printer's got quite good cooling or whatever, you know, like, so you could make it whatever you wanted the overhang to be. Yeah, it's definitely in Cura already.
Well, here's one feature that I'm pretty sure they don't have that I need them to have is
Yeah.
I call it sequential bridging. So you bridge one way and then you bridge off the bridges.
Yes, yes. And you could do like an octagon kind of thing.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That would be really cool. I've built that into CAD models before, but not seen it in a slicer. I wish it could do that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. We should tell Jamie or James. I'm not actually sure how to pronounce his name. Anyway, he hangs out on my Discord server. So we'll be like, do this. He won't do it. He's got too much on. But we can ask.
I played with the algorithms, and it's not something I think could be easily built into Cura. Like I've done a deep dive in the past since we've worked on it into what the inside of Cura looks like. I don't think everything in Cura has to be blazing fast.
When was that? Because they just made a new engine behind the scenes for so all of their engine for calculating everything has had a complete redesign at like
that's cool. I'll have to check it out.
Couple of months. The alpha is out on their website.
Nice.
I can drop you a link to it's called Arachne. Yeah, I can drop you a link, so I don't know if you want to have a look at it. The toolpathing is beautiful. Like the way it makes lines fit nicely into things and stuff. It's really, really nice. I've been playing with it. It's all I use now, actually, even though it's an alpha.
Well,
yeah.
I have to update it then.
I'll send you the link because it's not easy to find.
I got you.
I think it's only because James sent it to me. So.
Yeah. You can give me it on the download.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's open enough. It's just not like advertised on their like download page. So yeah. This is so cool. Do you have any more props there?
I'm really into cycloidal gearing, and so this is an arbitrary cycloidal.
They love hearts. That's the cutest. Oh my god, I love it.
So that's Nick and Jen. Is it upside down? There we go.
Is
Nick
Jen your partner?
She is my wife. Yeah, amazing. And I don't think she appreciated this gift as much as I did.
Well, it's awesome. I'm sorry, Jen, you're wrong.
No, I mean, like, yeah, it's like, thanks. Oh, 3D printed gizmo.
But it's love hearts.
Yeah, I do a lot of cycloidal stuff. It's really good for like gears to have more rolling instead of envelope gears. They have to push more, and then if you press them too tight into each other, they get a lot of friction.
Oh, okay. So rolling gears are kinda on the.
So this is like the heart itself is a spring element since it's thin walled. And so I can preload just by printing the hearts a little bit bigger, and it keeps everything backlash free.
That's cool.
Anyways, but normal cycloidal gears would be like you would go in and out, in and out. But this one goes, a circle rotating on the outside, and then the inside, and then the inside again, just to get that pattern. But anyways.
And I even love the shape in the middle that it makes. That's like a cute little frame sort of shape in the middle. Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. How do you build those? Oh, sorry. No, you go.
Oh, just to make it practical is kind of practical is cycloidal gears are what I use on the Simpson gear arms, because they're not involute gears. If I force them together, and there's like 100 pounds of force between the two sides of the arm, and so if you had that much force, you couldn't turn the arms; they'd get stuck. And so they're now more rolling on each other.
Huh. That's cool. I think I saw you posting about that in the Discord yesterday. I
just posted a video where I was trying to make a rack and pinion. I'm playing around with some ideas for some possible future projects, but I made a cycloidal rack and pinion that's just it's just pretty to watch, and so yeah, all based on this same
how do you
idea.
Model something like that? Like even just the challenge of modeling that would like how does that?
So
Wow.
I have to, so the profile itself is just rolling circles on other circles. And
Okay. Ah, okay.
so I wrote a Python script to produce DXF for that. And then I'll bring it into something like Inventor and then do all my, helical sweeps.
Sweep. Okay. Got it. Yeah. Beautiful.
Or a coil, if you want to just do a basic helical thing, you'll do a coil command.
Quail. Yes. Yeah. Okay. It's clicked now. I didn't realize it was just swept. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Love it. Cool. Well, where can people find you? Where, if they want to keep following what you're doing,
Well, I
all the
have
amazing
two
things.
followers on my Instagram. So
Nice.
you can find me at Nicholas J. Seward. Maybe I'll
Beautiful.
get more than two.
Hopefully.
And then I have and then YouTube would be the main place to find me. And eventually, if I ever can get somebody to help me finish projects, I'll post things on GitHub, and people can follow along and do projects with me.
Beautiful, beautiful. I will pop links to all of those in the description, and yeah, I might pop the 3D printing Discord there too, seeing as we've been talking a
Sure,
bit
yeah.
about that in there as well. Yeah, and all the projects, because people need to see what we're talking about, because they're really, really
There's
just
so many. I tried to
wild.
count the other day, and it's just insane the number of weird different ones it's hard to. I can't understand that I've worked on all those projects. It just doesn't make any sense.
I couldn't either. It just literally blew my mind. I was going through yesterday, binging them, being like, how can one person come up with so many funky printer ideas? Like, what? This is just. Do you just get into a role? Like, they just start making sense to you and then they just keep coming to you? Like, how do you end up with so many ideas that are so wacky?
Well, I'll build one, and then like that. Then later on, I'll like, oh, well, maybe I could do it a different way, or like just one will lead to the next. They're mostly defunct and sitting in corners and not being used, as you saw. Like I steal pieces from them for the next project. So
Hey, it's recycling. It's good.
I have this dream. Maybe we'll see if anybody wants to go along with this dream. But I have this dream where I'll do a project and then sell it and be done with it, and 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 then use the proceeds to just go get the next project going.
I like it a
I'm
lot.
hoping that there's enough people out there that want some unsupported funky printer.
I think definitely there will be people that I know will be watching this video who would like a funky print. You should just advertise at the end of your videos too.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that's what I'm gonna
I'm
see.
selling this. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope to build the mono printer, and just like the first one won't be everything I hoped it'd be, but it'll work, and hopefully somebody will want it.
Yeah. I think for sure. Just stick it at the end. Be like, you could buy this. Or like, support me on Patreon and you can get this thing, like I do a monthly raffle or something. I don't know. Whatever. Not monthly, like every time you make one raffle thing. I don't know. That would all work, I think. Oh. Well, thank you so much for coming on to talk to
No
me
problem.
and dealing with all my rambling. And I really, really appreciate it. And you're making such amazing things. And thank you so much for sharing them and for, yeah, teaching me
Thanks
about
for
them
having
here
me on.
today.
This has been really fun.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the internet.
Thanks.
Bye.
I am loving making this series, and if you are too, please support me on Patreon so I can keep making more. Top supporters will appear in this list of legends. You can meet another maker here, and here's a video YouTube thinks you'll like. If you want to catch up with any of us, all our socials are in the description below. See you later!